Here to talk about today is not just the wonderful kimonos out there. I'm going to give you a little bit of brief history and background on the kimono as a traditional garment. One of the things that Kubota did was to essentially reinvent a traditional technique of decorating textiles, and he modernized this technique. It's called Tsujigahana, and here we have Kubota himself and an example of the modernization of this very traditional technique, Tsujigahana. And this textile form was really lost to everybody after it had been around for about 100 years. It was created first in the late 15th century. It went through the 16th century, and then all of a sudden, the end of the 16th century, early 17th century, completely disappeared. But Kubota was so taken with it that he really said it had to be reinvented, and then he began to use it in his own designs. Now, the kind of kimono he designed were really very high-end. They were high fashion, they were labor-intensive, and this is the kind of traditional kimono dyeing that he worked with initially. The Yuzen dyeing is something, it's a paste resist technique that you draw the design with a tube of paste, and that then when you give it its first dyeing, the paste will keep the dye from going through the textile. So you will have white lines, white areas that you can then color in. And in something like this, you can see there's a lot of resisted areas that don't have the white. They can be touched up with paint to give color. They can have other kinds of painting done on them, but it's all very, very labor intensive, and that means it's expensive. But Kubota was a genius at doing this for someone so young, and so many people started to come to him to get their special kimono, the kind of things that you might order 6-8 months ahead of time to be sure you got it. And let me just note too that for these kind of events, as I say, they weren't the everyday events, but for weddings, for special ceremonies, coming of age was one important one. Every girl would want a special kimono when she turned 21. For things like rituals, kind of like christenings, you would want a special kimono, and you'd also want a special kimono for your child, too. And even sometimes for funerals, a special kimono would be worn. So these were unique items, and you were willing to spend the money for them because you want it to look special, you want it to look unusual, and you want it to stand out in a crowd. So these are the kinds of things that Kubota would design.